Jaya Many things, but not this table. Okay. No translation today?
Today, no need.
No need. You're
It's
liberated.
maybe later.
You're liberated. Okay. Otherwise, everyone's okay with English? I hope. Okay, thank you all for coming. We're continuing our discussion of Chaitanya-charitamrita as an overview, whirlwind, turbo overview, high-speed overview. And we're coming toward the end of our journey through the Adi-lila, Madhya-lila, and Antya-lila. I think we can get rid of, oops, that didn't work. We'll come. Oops. Right next. Okay, now I get it. Yeah, so we're coming toward the end. We have Antya-lila. Antya means end or ending. The final pastimes of Chaitanya Mahāprabhu. Lord Chaitanya appeared in this world for altogether 48 years. And there's a kind of even division of his life. The first 24 years was leading up to taking sannyas, order, and then the second half, the second 24 years, as a sannyasi in Puri, then traveling, then back to Puri, then to Vṛndāvana, then back to Puri, and then the final years, as I understand, a 12-year period he remained in Puri. And especially during this time, he focuses on the in-reach, so to speak. We spoke something about this. There was outreach and there was in-reach. And his in-reach is portrayed, is represented by Krishnadas Kaviraj in many verses of chapters 14 through 19. One could include chapter 20, the final chapter, because he is he's teaching, but he's also very much absorbed in Krishna bhāva, Krishna bhāva-namrita. Srila Prabhupada translated the expression Krishna bhāva-namrita as Krishna consciousness. That's what that comes from, Krishna bhāva-namrita. Bhāvana-amrita, the nectar of the bhava, the emotions of Krishna Bhakti. That's where that comes from. And it's Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu who is showing the very highest degree of such bhāvanamrita. When Srila Prabhupada was first coming to the West, he came on a ship from Kolkata. It stopped in Colombo, Sri Lanka, and then went further west through the Suez Canal, through the Mediterranean Sea and across the Atlantic, and landed in Boston first and then New York. And Prabhupada kept a diary during the 3 weeks journey. And he mentions in his diary that his consolation is what kept him inspired during this journey was to read Chaitanya-charitamrita. Of course, he was reading the original Bengali, his own native language. So we're coming now to, we hardly touched on the first two of these, appreciation and correction. We did discuss briefly some of the episodes. This section of 13 chapters has so many different interactions with devotees. It's a very, very special treasure for devotees to get the sense of being very close to Lord Chaitanya in his sort of daily interactions, how he interacted with others. So the first two are these interactions, and the second half, intoxication, instruction. In a sense, you could say it's his giving up of those interactions, not entirely, but engaging more in the inner interactions, the interactions with Krishna in deep absorption, but with the assistance, frequent assistance of certain devotees, especially Dāmodara and Rāmānanda Rāya, who would inspire him, spark, they would prompt him, especially by quoting verses from the Śrīmad Bhagavatam, especially from the 10th canto, especially from Krishna's interactions with the gopis. So this is all very exalted subject, and I don't remember where it is, but Krishnadas Kaviraj at one point he indicates that he's just going to go ahead and write even if no one understands what he's writing. And at one place he says, it's okay if they don't understand. In fact, I am happy if they don't understand. If the non-devotees don't understand, that's okay. That's good. So, if we now go to our other little diagram. considerations. We have these different sort of categories of types of persons that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is interacting with, closer to him, further away from him, expressed in terms of concentric circles. So now we could perhaps imagine now that this two-dimensional diagram is, instead of 2 dimensions, it's 3 dimensions. It's a yantra, which is like a mountain. Sometimes you can see they make 3-dimensional yantras. So here we have like a 3-dimensional yantra, and on top of this yantra, the peak, the pinnacle, that's where Lord Chaitanya is, with his very close associates. Or you could invert it and say the depth, the deepest part, is where Lord Chaitanya is now. High or deep, whatever. So he's kind of leaving behind these social considerations, and he's entering into the depths of his being as Radha and Krishna. But it's interesting that in these depths he interacts with certain persons, but also he interacts with this outermost ring, animals, plants, objects, and substances. In particular, in Puri, he runs to Chaitanya-charitamrita. This is a sand dune. It's a large sand dune, still there. Thinking it is Govardhan. He dives into the ocean, thinking it is the Yamuna. So these are physical substances. A mountain of sand, seawater. But his most intense emotions are evoked by these physical substances. So it's interesting. On the one hand, the physical substances or animals, plants, trees are the most distant. We generally don't see ourselves relating in personal ways with trees, and of course people have their pet animals, but they're kind of distant from the human universe, you can say. But for Lord Chaitanya, they become objects that are no longer objects. They are substance of Krishna. They embody something of Krishna. Okay, so then we can go to Chaitanya-charitamrita. Can everyone see this? Yeah. Okay, I'm jumping into chapter 14, verse 40 of Antya, where it's a beginning of a description of this intensity of Chaitanya's Mahaprabhu's bhāva. Rātri haile svarūpa-rāmānande lañā, āpana, manera, bhāva, kahe, ughāḍiyā. At night, Lord Chaitanya would reveal to Swarup Dāmodara and Rāmānanda Rāya the ecstatic feelings of his mind. verse. Prāpta-praṇaṣṭācyuta-vitta ātmā yayau viṣādojjhita-deha-gehaḥ gṛhīta-kāpālika-dharmako Vṛndāvanaṁ sendriya-śiṣya-vṛndaḥ. Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu said, at first, my mind somehow achieved the treasure of Krishna. But it again lost him. Therefore, it gave up my body and home because of lamentation, and accepted the religious principles of a kāpālika-yogī. Then my mind went to Vṛndāvana with its disciples, my senses. So there's some play here, it's making an extended metaphor. The mind is being described as a yogi. What sort of yogi? A kāpālika, which these are the yogis who go around with a begging bowl consisting of the half of a skull of a human body. Yes, they're kāpālika-yogis. They're quite strange people. So he says, my mind became like that and went to Vṛndāvana along with its disciples, my senses. And now I think there will be a series of verses in this different meter. Krishnadas Kaviraj uses, for Bengali verses, he uses two types of meters throughout. Most are in what are called, I think it's called Payar meter, Payar. Like Jaya Jaya Śrī Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gauradesh. That's Payar meter. And the other meter is this one, which is, I believe, called Tripadi, having 3 feet, Tripadi. And this is the meter of our Guru Puja song from Narottam Das Thakur. Prāpta-ratna Rāya, Taraguna Sannariya, Mahāprabhu Santape Vivāha, Rāya Sarupera Kantadari, Rāya Sarupera Kantadari, kahe, hari hari, darja, gela, ila, chapa. Having lost his acquired gem, Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu became overwhelmed with lamentation by remembering its attributes. Then, grasping the necks of Rāmānanda Rāya and Dāmodara Swami, he cried, "Alas, where is my Lord Hari? Where is Hari?" Finally, he became restless and lost all patience. So this is very much typical in a sense, and it's embodying a very key principle of Gaudiya Vaishnava theology, which is that it's not that we claim to meet Krishna, it's much more that we long to meet Krishna, that Krishna is absent. And the feeling of his absence, viraha, is the source of, on the one side it says here lamentation, but in fact on the deeper level is of the greatest joy. in a sort of a paradoxical way. So, yes, where is my Lord? He Radhe Vrajadevike Chalalite He Nanda Suno Kuta Śrī Govardhana Kalakar Patali, what is it? Śrī Govardhana Kalakar, no, mixing verses. He Radhe Vrajadevike Chalalite He Nanda Suno Gosantavi, anyway. Gosantaviti sarvato rajapure ke der mahavivalo vande rupa sanatano rabhugyugo shijiva kopalako. What were the 6 Goswamis doing? They were wandering around Vṛndāvana, calling out, O Radha, where are you? Hey Radhe, Vrajadevi, Chalalite, and where is Lalita? That mode of absence is the kind of essential principle of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, in contrast to, again, we talked about the Vallabha Sampradaya. In the Vallabha tradition, there's no, to my knowledge, there's no talk about absence of Krishna. No, Krishna is always present. No problem. Also in the Nimbarka tradition, Krishna, they say there's no question of separation. Philosophically, they're absolutely correct. But in terms of devotional emotion, something the Vaishnavas would say, something the Gaudiyas would say, something is missing. Shuno Vṛndāvana Krishna Madhuri Jaralobe Moraman Chaliloka Veda-dharma Jogi Anya Hoila Vikari. My dear friends, he said, please hear of Krishna's sweetness. Because of a great desire for that sweetness, my mind has given up all social and Vedic religious principles and taken to the profession of begging. Jogi hoya, exactly like a mystic yogi. Bhikkhari, bhiksha is begging. And loka veda dharma. Chali, the apostrophe after the I indicates the Y, long A in our transliteration system. So chaliya, having given up the dharma of the Vedas and the dharmas of this world, I become a yogi and I just go begging. Krishna Lila Mandala Shuddha Shankha Kundala Gadiyache Shukka Karikara She Kundala Kane Pari Krishna Lahu Talidhari Ashajuri Kandera Upara. The ring of Krishna's Rasalila, manufactured by Śrī Swami, the most auspicious craftsman, is as pure as an earring made from a conch shell. The yogi of my mind is wearing that earring upon his ear. From a gourd he has carved out the bowl of my aspirations, and he has taken the bag of my expectations on his shoulder. So he's taking this idea of the yogi and he's unpacking it in a figurative, in a metaphorical way. And this is very rich. He says that Śrī Swami is a jeweler. Gādiyāche Shuka Karikara. Shukadeva Goswami, how is he a jeweler? Because he has very expertly shaped through his speech, through his language, he has shaped the ring, the mandala, which is the rasadans, described in 10th canto Śrīmad Bhagavatam. 5 chapters. Who knows which 5 chapters those are? Anyone know the numbers? Chapters 29 through 33. It's sometimes called the Rasa Panchadhyaya. Adhyaya means chapter, Pancha means 5, Rasa means rasa. Rasa Panchadhyaya, the 5 chapters of Rasa Lila. So he's now saying Shukadeva is like a jeweler, and with his language he has so beautifully presented these 5 chapters. And of course it's a kind of double play, because what is the rasa dance? It's a dance in a circle. So a circle is a ring, and he's saying he has fashioned this very nice ring, and I'm a yogi, or my mind is a yogi. And what is a yogi? These kāpālika-yogīs, apparently they would wear one conch shell ring in their ear. So he's saying, I'm a yogi, and I'm wearing this ring. Which ring? The ring that was fashioned by Shukadeva Goswami. In other words, he's always hearing the description of Krishna's most exalted activity, the Rasa Lila. And then he says, I have a bowl, because yogis would carry a begging bowl, apparently not a skull. This time it's lau, squash or gourd. Thali is translated as bowl. And he has a jhuli. A jhuli is a bag. And what is this bag? It's the bag of his asha, his expectations. And the gourd, the bowl, is the bowl, the lau, of his aspiration, Trishna. Trishna means thirst. In the Buddhist system, the 4 so-called noble truths. The first is dukkha. This world is dukkha. The second is Trishna. Why is it dukkha? Because we are Trishna, because we have thirst, we have longing, we have desire. The third is nirvana. It is possible to become free from Trishna, etc. And how? Marga, by following a path. Which path? The Eightfold Path of the Buddhists. But Lord Chaitanya, he's carrying his Trishna as a yogi. He's not trying to get rid of his Trishna. He's begging. What is he begging for? He's begging for the alms of Krishna Bhakti. Chintakanta udigai duli vibhuti malinathai ha Krishna pralapa uttara udvegadvada shahate lobera julani mate vikavave kine kolevara. In Bengali, the ksha is pronounced ka. So viksha becomes vikha, kṣṇa becomes kīna. It's like a double KH. The yogi of my mind wears the torn quilt of anxiety on his dirty body. Chinta kanta. Kanta is, it's a quilt, which means it's taking rags, just pieces of rejected cloth, and sewing them together. The six Goswamis again is in that verse. Tyaktva tornamasesha mandalagati shrenim saratucha ughāḍiyā ganeshiko karunaya kopina kanta ashrita gopi bhava rasamritam dilahari kala kalolamaknamhur bande rupa sanatano raghugo shijiva gopalako. So kanta means a quilt. So they gave up jakfa. They gave up, having given up everything. They mandalavati. They were big shots. They gave it all up. Shrenim sada tuchava. Tuchava as insignificant. Bhutva, having become bhutva dina, lowly, wretched dinas. Karunaya kopina, out of mercy, out of compassion, karunaya kopina kantashito. They simply wore a loincloth and a kanta, a torn quilt. So here Lord Chaitanya says, this is my mind, it's wearing this quilt, which is covered with dust and ashes. His only words are, alas, Krishna. Ha, Krishna. Ha, Krishna. Pralapa uttara, crazy replies. Pralapa, lapa, speaking pralapa, crazy talk. He wears 12 bangles of distress on his wrist. I don't know why 12. And a turban of greed on his head, lover chula. Because he has not eaten anything, he is very thin. Viksha abhave, because of the absence of alms. Kṣṇa kalevara, his kalevara, his body, is kina, it's bony. Vyasa shuka vijogi gama Krishna ātmā niranjana vrajetaram jatta viradana Śrī Jai Gauranga Daiva Bhagavatadi Shastragane Koryache Varnane Shetarja Pade Anukana. The great yogi of my mind always studies the poetry and discussions of Lord Krishna's Vṛndāvana pastimes. In Śrīmad Bhagavatam and other scriptures, great saintly yogis like Vyasadeva and Śrukadeva Goswami have described Lord Krishna as the Supersoul beyond all material contamination. Okay. Let's see, Shaitarja. That competition of poetry between two parties. Bhagavatahi Shastragane Koryache Varnane. Krishna Niranjana. Okay, Vyasa and Shuka. Yogi Gana. mystic yogi. So he's comparing his mind to a yogi, and then he's saying Vyasa, he's also a yogi, and Shuka, he's also a yogi. He's also, they're yogis, so we're all yogis. Bhagavata Adi, so Bhagavata refers to the Bhagavatam, and Adi means beginning with. So Mahaprabhu was hearing and reading Bhagavatam, but he was also hearing and reading other works. It's mentioned he was hearing and or reading the Gita Govinda of Jayadeva Goswami, which became extremely popular. It's said to be simple Sanskrit. It's Jayadeva lived sometime before Lord Chaitanya, and it's said that he was from Odisha, so the Gita Govinda became very popular in Odisha, and it's chanted, it's sung, as I understand, in the Jagannath Mandir. It's also sung in the Jaipur Govindadev temple. At least a few verses of it. One time I was visiting the Govindadev temple one morning darshan, 7:30 maybe it was. And this is a very popular temple. It's I think especially fun time to go is in the morning for the morning darshan greeting, because the enthusiasm of the people to have darshan is so amazing. And these people, many of them are business people, they're on their way to work. They start their day by first going to the temple and having darshan. And after the curtain opened, everyone is, and then immediately people start singing, and sort of a cappella, there are no instruments, they just start singing in unison. And I was listening and wondering, what is that they're singing? And someone told me later it's verses from Gita Govinda. And it's like full-throated, very sweet, devotional. Sendriya-śiṣya-vṛndaḥ Mahabaula namadari Shishalaya Korilagaman Moradeha Shashadana Vishaya Boga Mahadana Vishaya Boga Mahadana Shabachadi Gela Vṛndāvana. The mystic yogi of my mind has assumed the name Mahabaula and made disciples of his 10 senses. Thus my mind has gone to Vṛndāvana, leaving aside the home of my body and the great treasure of material enjoyment. So some days ago we spoke about Lord Chaitanya physically going to Vṛndāvana. Now he's going to Vṛndāvana in his mind. But what is his mind? His mind is a yogi. And his yogi mind has disciples. And what are the disciples? They're his 10 senses. And so, in effect, he's again going to Vṛndāvana, because what is the body? The body is composed of senses. But he's staying the whole time in Puri, and he's simply listening to these scriptures and remembering Krishna. It's referring here to the bhāvas. The bhāvas are sort of, well, they're considered by Bhaktivinoda Thakur as apa-sampradaya. They're kind of village singers in, especially in Bengal, I guess also in Odisha, I don't know, Bengal, in Bangladesh. And they sort of go around singing devotional songs, but I think also romantic songs. So they're like in the West, the troubadours. You've heard of the troubadours? In the Middle Ages, these wandering musicians, they would go around and they would sing for the princess and inspire some donations, I guess. So these bhāvas are like that. So he says, I'm a yogi, but I'm also a bhāva. It's sort of wild. They're like people sort of on the edge of society, you could say. But they are appreciated for their music. In fact, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, even though he didn't like them in terms of sampradaya, he took some of their melodies and employed them in his songs. Oh, I see. Vṛndāvane prajagana jatastabara jangama vrikalata grihasta ashrame tarakahari vikatana halamulla bhadrashana ebriti kore-śiṣya-vṛndaḥ. In Vṛndāvana he goes, this yogi bhāva, goes from door to door begging alms with all his disciples. He begs from both the moving and the non-moving inhabitants, the citizens, the trees and the creepers. In this way he lives on fruits, roots and leaves. Palamula patra asana. So he is portraying himself. Of course, he himself, Lord Chaitanya, is a sannyasi, and the sannyasis are, their occupation, their means of maintenance, traditionally is begging. They go door to door. But in Puri, Lord Chaitanya was much respected and he didn't have to go begging. He was supplied all that he needed. But in his mind, he wanted to be such a sort of homeless beggar in Vṛndāvana. That was the sort of ideal, the spirit of just being a homeless yogi, begging door to door from the householders, grihasta, ashrami, taraka. Āpana, begging from door to door. Maybe a couple more. Krishna guna rupa rasa gandha shabda parashara se shuddha ashade gopigana ta shavara grasare grasso sheshe ani panchandriya-śiṣya The gopis of Vṛndāvana, the gopis of Rajaguni, Always taste the nectar of Krishna's attributes, his beauty, his sweetness, his aroma, the sound of his flute and the touch of his body. My mind's 5 disciples, the senses of perception, gather the remnants of that nectar from the gopis and bring them to the yogi of my mind. The senses maintain their lives by eating those remnants. So he's extending this metaphor. There's another extended metaphor near the beginning of Chaitanya-charitamrita, chapters 9, Adi-lila, 9, 10, 11, 12. They're describing the tree of Krishna Prema with Madhavendra Puri as the seed, the 9 sannyasis as the roots, Chaitanya Mahāprabhu as the trunk, the 2 main branches, Advaita and Nityananda, and then many sub-branches and sub-sub-branches. All the, as I mentioned, around 300 names mentioned altogether. So that's like and then out of this comes fruit, and what do you do with fruit? You can harvest it, and you can distribute it. So, and then Lord Chaitanya is the trunk, but he's also the gardener of this tree. So all of this is what you can call an extended metaphor. So now we have another extended metaphor, and this is the mind as a yogi with his disciples. And now we have these disciples going around begging, and what are they begging? They're getting the remnants of the experience of the gopis, of their association with Krishna, of the guna, the rupa rasa, guna rupa rasa, ganda shabda parasha. Parasha, this word comes from sparsha. Sparsha means touch, and somehow it gets kind of turned around and becomes parasha. So these yogis, disciples are going begging. They're receiving these remnants, and then they bring them, as the disciples should do with their begging. They bring what they've collected to their guru. So they're bringing what they've collected to their guru, who is the yogi, who is the mind. And so Mahaprabhu is saying, this is how I'm experiencing Vṛndāvana. So that's an interesting way of describing the yoga of meditation on Krishna. Because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, that it's a very good idea to make the mind into a friend. Instead of an enemy. If we don't make it into a friend, it becomes an enemy. How to make it into a friend? Lord Chaitanya is making his mind into a yogi friend in this way. He's going to Vṛndāvana. Okay, one more verse. Shunya kunja mandap kone joga basa Krishna dane tahan rahe lañā Krishna ātmā niranjana shakat takite mana dhyana rātri kore jagarana. There is a solitary garden where Krishna enjoys his pastimes. And in one corner of a pavilion in that garden, the yogi of my mind, along with his disciples, practices mystic yoga. Wanting to see Krishna directly, this yogi remains awake throughout the night, meditating on Krishna, who is the super soul, uncontaminated by the three modes of nature. I remember reading, so many years ago, I was curious about the practice of pranayama, and BKS Iyengar wrote a famous book, Light on Yoga, and another book, Light on Pranayama. So I was very excited. I got a copy of Light on Pranayama and started reading, and in the beginning of the book he explained, you want to practice this pranayama seriously, then you have to practice for 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, 2 hours in the evening, and 2 hours at midnight. That's proper pranayama practice. That's about as far as I got with that book. So yeah, the serious yogis doing dhyana meditation, they're pretty much forgetting about sleep. But this yogi, says Lord Chaitanya, this yogi, my mind, it stays up at night, and what does it do? It goes in this garden where it's Krishna, and it's watching. It's awake throughout the night, meditating on Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. So I think we'll stop there for now. I had a kind of slightly busy day today, so I don't think I'm going to stay up all night. Okay. Good? Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai, Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu ki jai, Krishna Kshetra Swami ki jai, Gauradesh.